My name is Madison Hayes, and I'm 32 years old. Picture this, you're sitting in your late grandmother's living room, surrounded by 15 relatives, talking about her estate, when your sister, the golden child and celebrated lawyer, suddenly stands up and declares that your rent is tripling to $6,800 because, in her words, you're just a property manager who needs to understand her place. The air froze. Some relatives exchanged smug glances, others avoided eye contact. There she was, Victoria, dressed in a $3,000 suit, waiting for me to break, to plead, to prove her right. Instead, I calmly took out my phone and sent one simple text. 20 minutes later, her confidence would crumble when my lawyer walked through that same front door. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I tell you how I turned the tables, and the title, make sure to subscribe if you enjoy stories about setting boundaries with quiet strength. And tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing this community grow across the world. Now, let's go back to that Tuesday that changed everything. Being Victoria's younger sister always came with expectations. She was the Harvard Law graduate who made partner before 35. I went to a state university and worked as an assistant property manager. At every family dinner, the script never changed. Victoria just finalized a $10 million deal. Aunt Patricia would boast, before turning to me with that sympathetic smile. And Madison, you're still working in real estate, right? I'd just nod politely. The truth was, I loved what I did, walking properties, analyzing markets, seeing potential others overlooked. But to my family, I was the underachiever. And Victoria made sure everyone remembered that. Madison, you need to aim higher, she'd say with that polished tone. Look at your sister. That's what success looks like. She managed our grandmother's rental properties, pro bono, as she liked to remind us, and called my two-bedroom on Riverside Drive a family discount at $2,200. Market value was only a little higher, but she treated it like charity. Most people in your pay grade couldn't afford this area, she'd say every time we met. I paid every month without fail. Never complained about the broken dishwasher that took months to fix or the heat that barely worked last winter. I knew my place, the grateful little sister in the family hierarchy. But what Victoria didn't know was that things had changed 3 years ago. That Tuesday, we gathered in Grandma's house, which still smelled faintly of her lavender potpourri. The mood was formal, as usual. Victoria sat in Grandma's wingback chair, ready with her legal pad, while I stayed in the corner seat no one wanted. Before we continue with the estate details, Victoria began, tapping her pen like a judge about to issue a sentence. There's another matter we need to discuss. She stood, smoothing her skirt, and smiled like she was about to announce a promotion, hers, of course. As you all know, I've been managing several family properties for years without compensation, she began, receiving a few nods of approval. But after reviewing current market trends, I've realized some adjustments are necessary. Her eyes found mine. Madison, this concerns you directly. The room quieted. Your current rent of $2,200 is far below market value, she said, producing color-coded charts. Comparable units are going for at least $6,800. That's a $4,000 difference, monthly. Meaning I've personally lost about $240,000 over 5 years. The room gasped on cue. Oh, Victoria, you're so generous, Aunt Patricia said dramatically. Victoria smiled faintly. It's time Madison stood on her own 2 feet. Effective next month, rent will be adjusted to $6,800. 5 full seconds of silence passed before Uncle Ted muttered, that's quite a jump. It's market rate, she cut him off. And since Madison works in property management, she should understand that better than anyone. I looked around, 15 relatives, all quietly complicit. No one said a word in my defense. Victoria slid a new lease across the table. I'll need this signed today. If I signed it, I'd be confirming everything she'd ever said about me, the dependent sister, the failure, the one who couldn't handle real life. But she'd underestimated me. Because 3 years earlier, Grandma had pulled me aside one quiet Sunday. "Your sister means well," she'd said, slipping a card into my hand. "But she doesn't see everything. Sometimes the quiet ones are the smartest. Remember that when the time comes." I hadn't understood what she meant, not until her private attorney called months later. Victoria's voice cut through my thoughts. "Well? Are you signing, or should I start showing your unit to new tenants?" She smiled, satisfied. I looked down at the lease, then at my phone. One text. One message sent 20 minutes ago. If I signed that paper, I'd lose more than an apartment, I'd lose my dignity. So instead, I simply said, "I'll have my lawyer review it first." Victoria laughed. "Your lawyer? Since when do you have one?" "Since I started making investments you know nothing about." Her smile faltered. The old clock ticked louder. 12 minutes now. Soon, she'd find out what Grandma really meant when she said the quiet ones are the smartest. "Sometimes, the smartest investments are the ones no one sees coming," I said, repeating the same line Grandma used to tell me. "Madison," Aunt Patricia asked cautiously, "what exactly did you do?" Robert opened his briefcase with calm precision. "Perhaps we should go over the ownership documents," he said. "I have them right here." "This is absurd," Victoria snapped, though her voice no longer carried its usual authority. "The trust owned," Robert corrected gently. Past tense. "The sale was finalized 3 years ago. Smooth process, too. The trust was quite eager to liquidate that asset." Victoria's phone slipped from her hand, clattering against the coffee table. "You're lying," she said, but her tone wavered. Her lawyer instincts kicked in as she grabbed her laptop and started typing furiously. "Any sale would have needed my signature as executor." "Actually," Robert replied patiently, "it only required majority stakeholder consent. The trust held 51%. The other 49%, he let the sentence hang." Victoria froze as the realization began to dawn. I watched her face as she scrolled through property records, her expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. The family trust had sold its majority stake, 3 years ago, for full market value. A sale she had likely approved herself, buried in routine paperwork. "Riverside Holdings LLC," she read aloud, her voice hollow. "An investment company," Robert confirmed. "Registered in New York, perfectly legitimate." "Who owns Riverside Holdings?" Uncle Ted asked. Victoria was already searching the state registry. Her fingers slowed, then stopped completely. "This has to be an error," she whispered. "What kind of error?" Derek leaned over her shoulder to look. His face went slack. "Holy language," Aunt Patricia scolded, before gasping when she saw it herself. "I don't sign anything without reviewing it first," I said quietly. "You taught me that, Victoria." For the first time in years, she looked at me, really looked at me, not as her inferior little sister, but as someone she'd completely underestimated. "You bought the building?" Her voice cracked. "My client prefers privacy regarding her investments," Robert said smoothly. "But under these circumstances, disclosure seems appropriate." Victoria stood abruptly. "I need to verify this," she muttered, dialing her assistant. "Take your time," I said calmly. "Robert, why don't we go over the current lease agreements while she does that?" "Of course." Robert opened another folder. "Interesting situation, actually. Your sister has been paying below market rent for her penthouse, $4,500 a month for a 3-bedroom with park views. Quite the family discount." The room erupted in murmurs. "Madison owns the building?" But she's a property manager. How did she even? Victoria cut through the noise. The trust sold for $2.8 million, she said bitterly. I signed off on it myself. I thought we were being smart, liquidating an underperforming asset. It was underperforming, I said. Under your management. Victoria's composure cracked. Let me be clear, she said, her voice rising. Madison's been lying to all of us, pretending to struggle while secretly what? I interrupted. Making smart choices? Investing wisely? Doing exactly what you always said I wasn't capable of? You deceived us. I kept my business private. There's a difference. Victoria flipped frantically through her notes. Your salary's $50,000. That's public record. You couldn't have possibly, that's my base salary, I said evenly. From my day job. Property management is what I do for others. Property investment is what I do for myself. Victoria turned to the family, desperate to regain control. She's been profiting off my work. My connections. Uncle Ted tried to intervene, but she snapped, please, this is between professionals. Professionals? I said. I'm the one who bought, renovated, and increased the property's value by 50%. Robert lifted another file. Indeed. 15 units fully renovated. New heating system. 98% occupancy rate. Except my unit, Victoria muttered. Correct, I said. You specifically told me not to bother with upgrades, said you were too busy to deal with contractors. Robert cleared his throat. For context, the current market rate for that penthouse is $8,500 a month. Your sister has been paying $4,500, a $48,000 annual discount. The irony hit the room like a slap. Derek even let out a low whistle. You planned this, Victoria accused. You set me up. You called this meeting, I reminded her. You brought the charts, the paperwork, and the audience. Robert turned to me formally. Ms. Hayes, how would you like to proceed regarding your tenant's lease? Tenant? The word landed like a gavel strike. Victoria sank into Grandma's old chair, deflated. We can talk privately, she muttered. I met her eyes. You gave me an ultimatum, remember? Sign or move out in 30 days, in front of everyone. That was before I knew, so your treatment was fine as long as you thought I had no power? I asked quietly. Silence. Victoria squared her shoulders. Fine. I'll take you to court. Retaliatory eviction is illegal in New York, she added. Robert smiled politely. Ms. Hayes isn't evicting anyone. She's simply adjusting to market rate, your own words, I believe. This is retaliation. Victoria shouted. This is business, I said. Something successful people should understand. Robert continued, you're also on a month-to-month lease, at your own request. No rent stabilization applies. Victoria's face drained of color. A knock sounded at the door. Perfect timing, I said. Who else did you invite? She demanded bitterly. No one. Probably Mrs. Chen from 4B, she's been hoping to upgrade to the penthouse. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Offer a qualified tenant market rate? Or did you want to sign a new lease, $8,500 a month, first, last, and security up front? Madison, please. You have 30 seconds, I said softly. Sign or start packing. That's more than generous. Legally, I could give you 30 days. Her own words. 20 seconds. Victoria looked around, but no one met her eyes. 10 seconds. I'll sign, she whispered. This, I said, is what happens when you mistake quiet for weak. Robert placed the new lease before her as I added, and remember, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success no one saw coming. I'm not, I said calmly. I'm choosing to forgive $144,000 in unpaid rent. Consider it my final family discount. The number hit the room like thunder. Derek dropped his phone. Aunt Patricia gasped, clutching her chest. 144,000? Uncle Ted repeated slowly. 4,000 under market each month for 36 months, Robert confirmed, flipping through his notes. Ms. Madison Hayes is being exceptionally generous. Generous? Victoria laughed, the sound sharp and hollow. She's been planning this for years. I've been running a business for years, I corrected. You just happen to be a tenant. The fact that you tried to humiliate me today over rent, that's just poetic timing. Don't pretend this is coincidence. You're right, I said, pulling out my phone. It's not. I was planning to talk privately next week, give you 3 months' notice, a payment plan, keep it between us. But you wanted an audience. I glanced around the room. So here's your lesson. Robert cleared his throat. Ms. Hayes, should we address the other tenants? What other tenants? Cousin Janet asked nervously. I smiled. You didn't think Victoria was the only family member getting a discount, did you? The room went still. Recognition spread. Uncle Ted, I continued, you pay $1,800 for the garden unit. Market rate is $3,200. Cousin Amy, $1,500 for your one-bedroom. Market is $2,600. Madison, Uncle Ted started gently, you're not going to triple our rent without warning, are you? No, I said. Unlike Victoria, I believe in notice and fair adjustments. I turned back to my sister. But you wanted to make an example of me. Congratulations, now you're the example. Robert's tone was firm. My client has owned this building for 3 years. She maintained discounted rents for family out of kindness, not obligation. That kindness ends where disrespect begins. Victoria rose slowly, her heels sharp against Grandma's floors. Madison, can we please talk privately? This is between successful adults, I said evenly, using her own words. You wanted transparency about market rates, here it is. $8,500 a month, or vacate in 60 days. I preferred to keep my investments private, I added, but you made that impossible today. Here's what's going to happen, I continued, my voice calm but decisive. You have 2 choices, sign the new lease at $8,500 per month, or vacate in 60 days. That's an extra month beyond what's legally required, because despite everything, you're still my sister. This is extortion. This is business, I replied. Your phrase, not mine. Robert, I said, please note for the record that Ms. Victoria Hayes has been informed of the rent adjustment in front of witnesses. Documented, he said, writing. And should I include the generous 60-day notice instead of 30? Please do. Victoria's fists clenched. What about my security deposit? The $4,500 you paid 3 years ago? I checked my phone. That covers barely half a month at market rate. You'll need to add another $4,000. This is insane. No, this is math. Something a Harvard Law grad should understand. The room watched as the power dynamic flipped completely. For everyone else, I announced, formal notices will go out next week. Rent will increase gradually, 10% per year until you reach market rate. That gives you time to plan. That's fair, Uncle Ted said quietly. Because unlike some people, I looked straight at Victoria, I don't ambush family. Robert tapped his tablet. Ms. Victoria Hayes, will you be signing today? I need time to review. Of course, I said. You have 72 hours. After that, the offer expires, and you'll need to vacate. I kept my tone neutral, professional. Fair warning, I already have 3 applicants for the penthouse at $9,000 per month. From Columbia law students? Victoria tried to sound mocking. From partners at your firm, I replied. Apparently word got out that a unit might become available. The color drained from her face. Family discount is over, I said simply. You'll pay market rate, just like you wanted. Madison, please, she whispered. My reputation, your reputation is your problem, I said. Mine was never yours to destroy, though you certainly tried. Robert stood, closing his briefcase. Ms. Hayes, I'll send the formal lease to your email. You have 72 hours. Wait. Victoria said desperately. What if I apologize? What if I take everything back? Then you'll be an apologetic tenant paying market rate, I said. You called me mediocre in front of 15 people. Now those same 15 know the truth. Victoria sank into Grandma's chair, pale and silent. Derek whistled under his breath. Madison owns the whole building. The entire building, for 3 years, Aunt Patricia added softly. Yes, I said. While you all thought I was a failure. I turned to Victoria. You wanted to teach me about success? Consider this my graduation. Robert handed me a card. Call if you need anything else, Ms. Hayes. The formal notices go out Monday. He nodded politely to the stunned family and left. The room erupted. How much is it worth now? 4.2 million, someone murmured. Madison's a millionaire, and she drives a Honda. Quiet, Uncle Ted said. Madison, why didn't you tell us? Would it have mattered? I asked. You'd already decided who I was. And now that I've proven you wrong, look how you're reacting. Victoria found her voice again. You lied to us. I kept my business private, I said. You're the one who announced my salary at Thanksgiving, remember? Made a joke out of $50,000, because you thought you knew everything about me. You were wrong. Madison, Janet said hesitantly, about my rental, you've always been respectful. Your adjustment will be gradual, I said. Anyone who's treated me with basic decency has nothing to worry about. The message was clear, Victoria was the only one facing consequences. This is harassment, Victoria muttered. This is cause and effect, I corrected. You tripled my rent to teach me a lesson. Now I'm teaching you one. My phone buzzed, Mrs. Chen again, asking about the penthouse. I ignored it. Grandma would be ashamed, Victoria said, her voice trembling. Grandma gave me the money to buy this building, I replied softly. She told me I'd know when to use it. She also said you meant well, but didn't see everything. Turns out she was right. Victoria gathered her things, shaking. I need to go. 72 hours, I reminded her. The clock's ticking. Her heels clicked down the hallway like a retreat signal. The next few days were chaos, calls, messages, relatives suddenly remembering my number. Everyone wanted to reconnect. Aunt Patricia called, sugar sweet. Madison, dear, about my unit, your rent stays the same, I said. The 10% annual adjustment begins next year. Oh, well, maybe I could help manage the building. I already have a management company, but thank you. Soon, everyone wanted advice, meetings, opportunities. But the real fallout hit Victoria's world. Word spread through Manhattan's legal circles that she was being evicted by her unsuccessful sister. 3 partners from her firm have applied for the penthouse, Sarah, my property manager, said, amused. She's got 69 hours left, I replied. She's been calling the office nonstop, Sarah added. I told her all communication must go through legal. Victoria tried everything, legal letters, mediation, even emotional appeals. There's no dispute, I told the mediator. Just business. When her own screenshots leaked, showing she'd underpaid rent, her family supporters went silent. Even the tenants began treating me differently. Ms. Hayes, said Mr. Thompson from 3A, thank you for the heating upgrades. Best winter we've had. 3 years of quiet work, finally noticed. On the third day, Victoria showed up at my real office, my corner office. 50,000 was your starting salary, I said evenly. 5 years ago. She looked broken. My firm knows. They're questioning my judgment. I might lose my promotion. I didn't make this public, I reminded her. You did. I'll pay the rent, she said. 8,500. You can't afford it, I said. Your loans, your car, your cards, the math doesn't work. You knew that when you set the price. I knew that when you tried to charge me $6,800, I said. Didn't stop you. Her silence was answer enough. You'll vacate in 60 days, I said, handing her the notice. Your deposit will be returned after inspection. You're really making me homeless? You're a Harvard grad making $200,000 a year, I said flatly. You'll be fine. You'll just have to live within your means, for once. The inspection revealed $5,100 in water damage from her jacuzzi. The deposit went straight to a scholarship fund for first-generation students. 6 months later, Victoria was in a one-bedroom in Murray Hill, still too expensive, but finally learning. At Thanksgiving, the energy had shifted. Aunt Patricia passed around an article. Madison's building was featured in Architectural Digest. Victoria stayed quiet. When I stood to help clear dishes, she followed. You could have told me privately. Would you have listened? I asked. She didn't answer. For what it's worth, she whispered, I'm sorry. I know, I said. But trust isn't rebuilt with words. It's rebuilt with time. She almost smiled. The new tenant pays more. The new tenant respects the property, I said. As she walked away, I thought, your worth isn't measured by who sees it, but by what you build in silence. Grandma had been right all along. The best kind of power is the kind no one sees coming. That was 2 years ago. Victoria and I now meet for coffee once a month. She rents a modest place in Brooklyn. The building's worth $5.8 million, and I bought 2 more. Respect, I've learned, isn't demanded. It's earned quietly, and revealed when it matters most. And sometimes, the best response to someone trying to put you in your place, is simply showing them that you own the building.